Look who decided to come visit. Oh, we were just taking a nap. Hello, artist. How are you today? Stephanie Aune once again coming to you here from the banks of the Trinity River. Ozzy and I welcome you to the studio. We are so happy you are here with us today. I wanted to give you guys a huge shout out and say thank you so much for your support of my recent video regarding my Crohn's disease. It was a really hard day, and sometimes people need to see the hard days, right? But there's the toss-up between being private and trying to have positive, joyful videos and being honest. And I really appreciated all the wonderful, wonderful, amazing things you guys said. It really did, it really did raise my spirits up. And where are things at right now? How am I doing? I'm better today. The prednisone that I've been on now for the last 2 weeks is finally getting a work on some of that swelling, so I'm feeling a bit better, have more energy, thankfully. I still am trying to get some of the tests done that I need to do. I still haven't been able to get the iron infusions yet, so hopefully early next week I can get that going. And I'm really looking forward to it. I just can't wait, It's like I know I'll feel better soon, and I just can't quite get to there. So I did go and get my hair done the other day and feel a little better about that. And definitely my body feels less painful today. So thank you again for all of your amazing kind words, and also for all the comments that you left on the recent videos. I always read your comments, and thank you so much for writing them. It does make a difference. It truly does. Just even a quick hello. It's not like you have to say anything fabulous or amazing. Just a quick hello. Well, I finished this finally. I started it 2 weeks ago. This is our 3-dog night is our metaphor for this one. Of course, we've got Ozzy here, and we've got his buddy Baxter, who has these really great ears that come out sideways and down. And then we have Ozzy's buddy Tank, who has, he's a little terrier, so he has beard and mustache. So there is our project for today. 3-Dog Night. Kat actually told me that that was a metaphor. I thought it was just the name of the band. But a 3-dog night is how cold is the night, where you need 1 dog, 2 dogs, or a 3-dog night is super cold, and so you need to have 3 dogs huddled up in bed with you. But I hope you enjoy the video. It will be, fast forward with voiceover. Ozzy does kind of sit on his butt this way, so he's kind of got this little shift to him. And it was tough. It was tough, and I still don't know if it's perfect. He's got a dark nose, and then he's kind of got, little stripes of white under here. So anyways, and it's hard to do black in a night sky and a kind of a night cold, dreary sky. Excuse me. But all right, let's get to the video. I'm chatting too long. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, hello. All right, so I took this canvas board and I primed it with a coat of white gesso. I used the white gesso in order to create more of a tooth. Sometimes these canvas panels really don't have a whole lot of grip to them. They're kind of a slicker surface. And even if they say that they are pre-primed, sometimes an extra coat of gesso can really help you out with getting your paint to stick well. So I took my India ink and I drew a funky border on it, just like I have with the other pages that I've done. Just trying to keep some continuity to it.
Now remember guys, just because I moved out of the book and am working on these panels, you can do these techniques on any substrate that you want to. You do not have to do it in an altered book. You do not have to do it on a panel. Just do what makes you happy. That's what's important, right? You can even do it in your sketchbook. So I had the canvas panel prepped basically, and I put a dove gray border on it, and I wanted to kind of figure out how I was going to put these guys in here. So I went into my sketchbook and I sketched out a quick little drawing of how I wanted it to look. Now, the cute thing about this little drawing that I did is Tank actually looks really good in that drawing. His face is a little bit shorter than what I made it in the final piece, and this little sketch actually turned out to be pretty fun. But Ozzy was a little bit off on the sketch. But again, this is just kind of putting down loose lines. I'm trying to keep the pen fairly loose and just sketching out an idea to see how I could make it look. And, by doing that, I was ready to go to the panel and do another sketch, basically. So, this project probably took me, altogether, I would say, probably at least 7 or 8 hours. So, this video will actually be broken up into 2 parts. And I'll try to post them closer together. But, it's about an hour long of video. So, this is the first 30-minute, the first installment. So I took that dove gray background, and it was a little flat color, so I made a wash out of probably an ultramarine blue and a bit of a violet color, dioxidin purple or sorry, it's a little bit late at night here, and I'm not thinking too great, but anyways, I just mixed up a kind of a purpley blue color and in a light wash and put it down. And actually I did put it over the gray also, and it gave it a little bit more life of a color, So, put down the blue, sprayed some water on it, pulled it up, the water droplets, and got a really nice speckled background. And now I'm taking some white paint and adding more speckles into it. And then I'm kind of pulling those up. I really like the background that you get when you do that. I think it's kind of a really cool, fun, I think it's interesting. So now I'm going back over the black border that I had put there when I started out. And what am I doing next? I'm still playing with the border. I like using the India ink with the wide nib calligraphy pen for doing that border. I think it works well. Now I'm adding some black splatters into the background also. So I have white splatters. When you have that primed board, also the white is different than if you would just have it having the white canvas behind it. It's definitely usable. So then I decided I wanted to put the moon in there, and I did put a layer of gesso over the inside of the moon so that I had a nice good surface to work on. It is definitely much better with these transparent paints to have a background that you can really build up the color on. So now I am working on placing in the doggos. And using my Signo Impact 207 medium point. I like that pen very much. Again, it is a little bit more expensive, but it's a nice pen. It works well for me. It is water soluble. So that's always something to remember. Now we're kind of blocking in old Tank. He is a terrier mix, so he is very tenacious, and Tank is a perfect name for him. He will go and attack the big dogs. He just has no fear. True terrier. And then we have Baxter over there. Baxter is a big black lab mix. He's got a couple black spots on his tongue, so he is quite an interesting mix. And he is such a sweet dog. And he's definitely one of Ozzy's best buddies. Ozzy is very lucky to have as many friends as he has, and people that love him and care about him. So I'm trying to do these sketches very loose. I'm trying to keep my hand back on that pen a little bit to keep the looseness. So I'm just blocking in shapes here. Layers upon layers upon layers go into these. Don't ever think that one line that you put down is going to be your final line. In some cases it is, but sometimes it takes a little bit more to build it up. And here what I'm doing is I'm just taking some water on the brush and kind of getting kind of a shadow feeling, kind of shading in, blocking in, getting the guys situated. And I think I decide here that I wanted Ozzy to be a little bit taller at some point, so he kind of gets moved around a little. And now, what am I doing? I go ahead and I start to paint the moon. I do. That is what I do. This is, looks like a mix of Prussian blue and ultramarine blue. Kind of that little greener tone. That's the Prussian blue in that. Whereas the ultramarine is the color that's in the background that the boys are sitting on. So you can kind of tell that the Prussian blue has just this. It's a really gorgeous color, especially when you add a little bit of white with it. Beautiful turquoisey, happy color. I'm working here also on making the moon feel round. And, you kind of have to shadow one side and highlight another. Just blocking in the eyes. The eyes are just kind of wonky lines across, and then 3 circles underneath. And the innermost circle is generally black with a little white highlight. Then you have the middle circle, which is going to be your eye color. And then you have the outer circle, which will be kind of the brightest white that you can get. Now when you're using a brightest white like that, that's always going to draw your attention to that point. Anytime that you have a pure black or a pure white, your eyes will focus on that, just naturally. And so by making those eyes have that bright highlight, it'll draw people into the faces without them even knowing. Now, other tricks for that, for bringing people's eyes into focus on a particular thing is, of course, having a contrasting color, a high contrasting color, or an extreme dark to light, or and if you don't want people to focus in on a spot, if you want it to kind of fall into the background, remember your colors have to be more similar. They have to be less contrast, and that way we can really create depth and interest in our paintings. Here I'm just taking a fine brush and putting in some eyebrows, there's not really too much to talk about, I guess. You're just kind of watching what I'm doing here. I'm taking the cool colors. I'm trying to do some eye sockets for him. And, highlights right there where, the top of the eyeball would be on the top of the eyelid. Putting a nice bright white line there, and then I'm putting a darker line over the top of it, and just moving it around. It does take a while to, build up the paint the way that you want it to be. And it does take patience. It takes different sizes of paintbrushes. Now, also remember, guys, that you don't have to get this detailed on your illustrations. There's no reason, if that's not something that you want to learn to do, definitely, make a collage. Do what makes you happy with this. You could do something fun with cut paper and, cutting out different eyes and different noses and putting them together. There's a lot of different things that you could do with this other than just making a painting. But we also, should look at the composition. 3 is a great number. So even though there's 4 elements, the moon reads as 1 and the dogs read as 3. It doesn't necessarily read as 4 altogether. And so elements and asymmetrical balance. The dogs are on one side and they're kind of at a diagonal, and then you have the moon offsetting them on the other side. So we're making a balance, even though each side isn't absolutely equal. We're creating interest and dynamic painting by doing that. Now here's where I decide I wanted to make Oz a little bit bigger. And I actually end up making Baxter, I think, a little bit taller. So, just because I put it down in pen doesn't mean that it stayed there the whole time. I just wanted them to be a little bit bigger and to fill up that space just a little bit more. And just moving the ink that I have on that background and, trying to get a good outline for him. The boys, crazy wild boys. They had a lot of fun this summer. They're in the early part of the summer. They would, Baxter would come over and they would go down to the river and run and play ball every day. And I would sit down there and read a book, but most likely I would get a ball dropped in my... They were so insistent with the ball. Baxter loves the ball. And Ozzy just loves to chase Baxter. He loves the ball too, but he gets bored with it after a little while, and then he likes to chase Baxter around and bark and just be a general hooligan. Baxter's, I think, a year or 2 older than Oz. We haven't seen much of Baxter lately, but he's a good boy. A good buddy. So yeah, Baxter, basically, you have to throw the ball for him all the time. It's all the time, which can be really annoying when you want to read your book, and then he comes up and he plops the ball in front of you, and he just stares at you until you throw it, and then you throw it for him into the river, and then he goes and gets it, and then he comes back and he plops it right down in front of you again. He's a pretty funny guy. Very, very ball focused, though. So what I'm doing here is I am bringing a coat of gesso over the dogs. And again, for me, I've found that it makes a much easier painting surface. Not that I really want to cover up all of the sketching that I've already done. That's, I'm still trying to kind of play with that. Do I want to? I don't want to put the background in last. I like putting the background in first. But if I put the background in first, then I have to block in the animals in order to make the paint work. well. But, you know, it gave me a lot of chance to kind of, you know, fine-tune the drawings somewhat. They did take me a while to fine-tune, of course, and then it's like, oh, but I just got his face just right. It's like, okay, now I'm covering it up. Okay, well. And also part of this too is, you know, I wasn't feeling very good while I was working on this. And so sometimes you end up doing things more than once, or, you know, kind of doubling up and repeating things, and that's kind of what was going on here. Now I'm just kind of blocking in an undercolor. I probably shouldn't have picked Baxter because he's black, and then this is a night scene, and that did kind of made it a little bit difficult, of course, because, you know, how do you make that dark dog stand up from the background? And I think I did okay in the end. Right here you don't really notice it, but I do end up, you know, darkening the background down a little bit more to make it kind of sit back. Again, that's kind of a mix of ultramarine blue, Prussian blue, probably some cobalt blue, and probably some violet in there. I use titanium white. Other colors that are probably on the palette there are cad yellow light, medium yellow, and that might be like an Indian yellow or something like that. There's a few yellows there. And then I'll usually grab an orange color and a red color. I didn't really put any green out, I don't think. You know, yellows and blues can make about any green that you would want, so it's not as important to have on your palette. Of course, it depends on what you're doing. Of course, if I'm doing a landscape, I have every single green available to me out on my palette. So there's old Baxter's blocked in there. Good boy. Then Ozzy does have a nice tan chest. He is a saddleback German Shepherd. So we really wanted that to stand out well. And, you know, it was a little bit hard. I'm still learning how to do this. Remember this, guys. This isn't something that I've really ever done. So I'm definitely fumbling my way through a bit. But, and remember too, this is at 400 times, you know, I've sped it up 400 times. Or 4 times. How does that work? Yeah, I've really sped up the film for you, so you're not seeing all the tedious little mixes of every single color. And, you know, and then I've got Ozzy here, and I'm like, what? You know, I didn't really want to be, you know, painting in his little body parts, and so how do I make him sit there without, you know. So he kind of got this little cross-legged butt look, which is actually really adorable because that's exactly how he sits. He'll sit straight down on his butt, but he also does kind of this butt roll where he'll roll onto his hip and sit on his hips instead of on his butt. He's a funny boy. I would be so lost without him. But it ended up working out well. You know, I don't know how I ended up getting it all fitting in there right and how it turned out looking right, because I was purely guessing. Okay, so things that I was challenged with here. you know, you have to keep your most intense colors for your closest up things for you to create depth. So truly, his little nose should have been, you know, the most closest up thing, right? So that's got to be kind of the brightest yellow. And that's all. We'll talk about that more here coming up in a little while. Probably in the next video, actually, I think is where I get into doing more fine detail work with him. But first we're going to finish up the moon. You need some big old pretty lips there on that moon. I did take my black pen and I drew some circles around the moon. Just really light, not necessarily light, but non-controlled. And just did some cool circles. And also kind of accentuated the border a little bit with that, with my Signo. I'm taking a yellow color for his eyes, for the moon eyes. Now I'm going back and I'm trying to go in and sketch back in Ozzy and the other dogs. And, you know, using that gel pen as a drawing tool, of course. Still trying to get him to fit in there just right. And, you know, every time you put down paint, you kind of have to cover up the ink that's underneath. And so, again, I probably redrew his face. I don't know. I probably redrew his face at least 7 times throughout this process. But once you know, you've got to put the color down, and then you got to draw the face back in, and hopefully I can figure that out and streamline that process as I go along. That would be nice. Because it's kind of a pain in the patootie. But the thing that I love about the Signo is that you can go in and you have your undercoat underneath of it, you know, and these guys actually probably would have been just fine with just that undercoat. You know, I always have to take it further than it's necessary. But you see, look how Tank's coming along right there. I really wouldn't have had to have done all the additional work on him that I did do. So, see, he's pretty darn cute right there. So you can just put down kind of your base color and bring over your gel pen over the top of it and get some really great line work. So much fun. Let's see. If you guys have any questions about, you know, how I'm drawing any of these things, definitely leave them down in the comments. And what am I doing now? I'm bringing in some white. So the nice thing about using the white gel pen, again, is getting the bright whites. It's hard with a paintbrush to get that small of space of the white. So I was very good at drawing, but not so good with, you know, fine detail painting. So for me, having a pen in my hand is more comfortable than having a paintbrush. Sometimes I can have, you know, I get a lot more control with a pen or pencil. So it is nice to be able to, you know, sketch over the top of it. I'm really loving the technique of combining the gel pen with the acrylic paint. I think it's pretty cool. And then in my sketchbook with the watercolor. So it's fun. It's fun. I hope you guys do continue to try to do these. We're coming up to the end of this video, and we'll have part 2 coming up. I'll have it up, you know, in the next day or 2, so I won't make you wait a few days for it. It should be coming up soon. Alright, again, everybody, thank you so much for your support. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you haven't. Pretty please. If you can add it to a playlist, I would really appreciate it. It does help out the YouTube algorithms. So, that's what's important. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.